This recording is in progress for the Rauscher Farm Management Subcommittee meeting of the 11th of March 2026. And we will first go with roll call. So Gloria Parkinson here.
Dean Briggs here.
Dave
Christine
Deltero here.
Latini. Ooh,
Oh,
sorry,
sorry.
Dave.
Sorry.
Jim Webster here.
And I'm adding that we are now at 6:05. Okay, 6:05 p.m. And our agenda starts off with the minutes of January and February, everybody, that have been circulated ahead of time. Would you like a moment to skim? Well, I'll tell you what, I'll take a motion for the minutes and a second, and then if you would you like some skim time just to review?
Well, I'll make a motion to accept the January 14th, 2026 minutes.
Second that.
Uh, okay, so minute to skim, or to correct or whatever the minutes of January the 14th.
I read them earlier and didn't see anything.
Same.
Anyone
Yep.
else? Okay. I hear the deafening roar of silence, so I'm assuming that there are no corrections or horrendous proofing mistakes by yours truly. No? Okay, so again, all those in favor of accepting the minutes of the January the 14th, 2026 meeting, please by
Dean
roll
Briggs,
call.
aye.
Christine Latini, aye.
Dave Deltero, aye.
Gloria Parkinson, aye.
Jim Webster, aye.
Okay, next, February.
I'd like to make a motion to accept those minutes of February 11th, 2026.
Seconded.
Okay. Moment to skim, everybody, or correct? Okay, I'm overwhelmed by the deafening roar of silence. So, yes, ready to vote, everyone? All right, all those in favor of accepting.
Dean Briggs, aye.
Okay. Dean just voted by roll call.
Christine Latini, aye.
Dave Deltero, aye.
Gloria Parkinson, aye.
Have you frozen? Hello?
Hello? No? I'm waiting for you to vote, Jim.
You just everything just froze. I thought you were frozen. Yeah, Jim Webster, aye.
I'm wobbling my head now. Can you see
Okay.
me wobbling my head? Okay.
Yeah.
So that
all right.
they're approved. Christine just gave me the heads up. She's reinstalling Zoom and may suddenly crash out and have to come back in. So there is not an emergency going on at her house. She suddenly vanishes, right?
I think I'm good.
Other than Zoom swallowing her up. Okay. Well, as we know, we have had, I'm just going now to, public comment? Public comment. There is none. No public comment. Okay. Now we're going back to our usual maintenance, etc. agenda items. I'm just going to move pages around here. I don't want that. I seem to have totally lost my I'm looking for the discussion document, which I know I printed it all. So did I have a sudden?
Well, I have a printed copy. You can have mine if you need it.
Well, it's funny, I did print it off and I don't see it. So I didn't leave it in your printer, did I, Jim?
Oh, no, it's not. I printed my own, but no.
No?
You can have mine if you want
I'll
it.
just borrow yours for now rather than, wait a minute. Oh no, found it. Okay, I'm good. All right. Well, again, like our February meeting, the weather, as in snow and bitterly cold, has continued from February into March. And so, unless you tell me disabuse me of my notion, I am on the trails conservation equipment maintenance. I'm improving. I'm thinking there's nothing further to report since last month. Is that correct?
Yes, nothing new that I know of.
Okay. Um, right. Okay. Then we get to, where are we up to then? Okay, the habitats, etc., etc., etc. Oh, I know I did want to ask one thing. I see it in the discussion document. Um, when would be a reasonable time to contact Sam Bell? And Jim is the one with the direct contact here. I know this is delicate, but the issue being if he's not available for October, it's going to take us, we need lead time to be able to find an actual bona fide conservation mower, which is what Sam Bell is. And
Uh, and I don't really know diplomatically how to handle it. I think I probably should send him an email. What is it now? It's March, right?
it's March, yes.
And the reason was there were health problems with his wife, and I'm not sure how that all worked out. I think I'd probably best just send him an email and ask if thinks he's going to be available to mow in the fall.
Yeah, in October.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
I think that's probably the best way to do it. And then,
And he's told you the details of his personal life, so you could, saying hope.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll send him an email,
Okay. So
tomorrow sometime.
yeah, or if we have any indication by our April meeting.
I could call him. I just don't want to call him cold when
No.
because he also does like the deliveries and pickups for them too. But I just don't want to intrude in his life other than official business. So I'll send him an email, which I think maybe he can then take his time and decide how to respond if he needs to.
Okay. Okay.
And then I can
Thank you.
always chat with him anytime he wants to.
Okay. 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 No, I know it's delicate. Okay. It's definitely delicate. Okay, so now we're going to look at all our various climate, habitat stuff here. The updates on that. So I know we have our event planned and we've worked out over the last couple of months moving into sort of hopefully being able to start to train up, quote, stewards who would be able to have help with things like girdling. I'm wondering if we should look at that again, this would be for discussion next month, to look at the forest stewardship management plan and see if there are aspects of that that would have a big price tag so that we could look for possible funding for those bigger price tags. In other words, beyond the scope of work that us as a volunteer team and us recruiting stewardship could do. So I'm just asking us to look at that forest stewardship plan and see if there is anything. And the reason I'm asking is because suddenly this week there was, requests for fundraising, for grant applications for environmental and things like that projects. Now the deadline would be this year, right? It's coming up right soon, so it's not going to work. But I was thinking then we should be beginning to look at for next year how we might expand the woodland management aspect, and in the meantime try and find where that funding could come from.
I'm stumped off the top of my head to think of what kind of a project that would be. Other than having somebody come in and cut down some of those big white pines, which is not really anything doesn't really have any value for lumber or anything like that. And right now, the plan is called for, unless there's something in there I don't recall, is to girdle some of those big white pines so they become habitat and snags and eventually open up the canopy. But, in terms of like a logging project or anything like that, I don't know what it would be.
Yeah, I know we don't have the commercial scale for that. But is there a way if in a looking at a way to speed up diversity?
Hello?
I mean, is there any possibility of as well? Yes, girdling is a long-term project for the white pines. Would there be a way of taking some down and deciding which ones to take down with the possibility of not more white pines growing back in their place? In other words, increasing the diversity of an area. I'm just raising it because I haven't done the homework myself yet, but I'm just raising it as a question to look into it.
All I could say is that would have to be something where you'd have to have a forest to come in and look at it to come up with a
Right.
proposal because, it's above our pay grade.
Yeah. And some of these grants are substantial for allowing for, a project that could come in saying, we're proposing a forest to look at this area. I don't know. This is real again, long-term
Well,
planning.
but since you brought it up, if that is something that there might be a grant to make it worth somebody's while, off the top of my head, what I would say, if we had a professional forester come in and look at it and put together some kind of a spec, it would be to thin out that huge area of large old white pines. But that would require professional foresters coming in and cutting things down.
Right.
That's some of the areas that we were planning to girdle, but if we can get some of them cut down ahead of time, that would be fine. It would open up the canopy, make some room for some hardwoods. The struggle then to make sure that that doesn't just all fill in with invasives instead.
Right.
But again, that's something where we'd need to have professional specification and
So,
how to
how
go
about
about it.
we look into the possibility of a project of that scale? That project even to speed up removing the white cat pines taking over.
Like I said, all of the small young white pines we can take care of ourselves. It's the ones that
Right.
are, the ones that are 3, 4, 5 inches are all things we can handle easily. There's lots of them, which is this project that we are already planning to start
Right.
with us going up and then, that part. It's the big old ones, um, which is again way above anything we amateurs could or should even
Right.
attempt
No,
to
and I'm
do.
thinking that scale. I'm thinking that scale. The email I saw was like, ten to $50,000. I mean, it was money. It was serious money.
Okay, there may be something there, but would need somebody to come in and look at
Okay.
it who knew what they're talking about to put together a
Right.
suggestion for what we need to do, and presumably some kind of, I don't know if we need to go out to bid on this or not, depending on the size of the project, but
It would
if
be the
we,
town doing it. It would be like we do for all of the grants we've got for the woodland management are all done in the name of the town. So how they work is, just as we know, is that we come up with a project, which is how we got the actual plan itself. We take it through, which is why I'm saying it's a 12-month to look at this. We would
but
look at we would yeah.
just to break it down into parts though, somebody professional would have to draw up some kind of a recommendation and some kind of a specification, at which point, depending on the dollar amount, is that something that would have to then go out to bid? Or is that something that could be done just under contract if it's under a certain amount? I mean, I don't know how that works.
It it I Well, technically, um, it could go out. It has to go out to bid. It's a question of scale. If it was a question of, I mean, once you get up to 50K, right?
Mhm.
I'd have to double check this. There is a certain level, and it might be 15,000. I'm just putting the thought balloon
Okay,
out there.
and just one area that could be a hitch. I'm not saying it couldn't be surmounted, it would have to be, is we had one forester come in to look at it and put together a spec, and then it goes out to bid and some different forestry company comes in. Well, if somebody's already suggested which trees and somebody else comes in as a pro, suggests other trees that could, I mean, I don't know how all that works. There'd be room for confusion that would have to be monitored and ironed out somehow.
If it follows my understanding and the understanding of the path to Clamshell Pond, there is a project person that, say the forester is the one that comes up and
Yeah.
we express that we're trying to do the white pine, to minimize the big white pines for diversity, right? That person would draw up a scope of work and a plan and cost it. Then the question is, would that plan then be bid on by other foresters? That's your question, right?
But the fuzzy area that I see there, and again, I'm sure it can be, I assume it can be handled by a professional forester, is, okay, given that there's some hundreds of trees up there, we want some small number of them taken down in certain areas. Somebody has to decide which trees come down. So
Right.
you couldn't really draw up a spec that says these particular trees, I don't think. But on the other hand, you'd have to draw up a spec that says to selectively remove trees, which somebody then still has to monitor or oversee, who
And
might
these
not
are
be
the
the same
questions,
person who's doing the work,
these are precisely the questions that I'm suggesting we start to look into as to how might this work. If there is funding out there, and we know that we are trying to get diversity into the woodlands of Rauscher Farm, how might this work? It may or may not be feasible, but given having seen floating dollars come past my email, and knowing, the slow process for the likes of us and other volunteers, I'm suggesting we investigate the feasibility of such a project, which may or may
I'm all
not
in
be.
favor of investigating. I just can't quite picture how it would be put together, but
I think insufficient data. I think we spend a month or so getting the data to see how might this work. That's as far as I'm thinking of going right now. Okay. So the rest of you, investigate, research like we do for all projects and see, because one of our goals is that diversity. And, it's a bit like the Day of the Triffids, as Christine knows the movie so well. She's the only person here, other than Jim, who knows the Day of the Triffids. But the Triffids came and they took over everything. Well, we've got like our equivalent of the Triffids in White Pine. So if we can get a head start on introducing diversity because we have removed some. Anyway, that's all. All right, enough for now. Let's see if there's anything there. Let's see if there's a there. Yeah. It doesn't hurt to ask and look. We do it all the time. And then come up with ways of somehow trying to pull it off. All right. So that was just the thought, okay, about the woodland management. Okay. This is slightly out of my notes are out of order here, sorry. So grassland and wetlands, it sort of comes up a bit later in the the volunteer with the WPI, right? Students. In other words, I haven't heard anything. I'll fill you in, but the fair hasn't happened yet. So we don't have any feedback yet. All right, so moving along, but we know that our grasslands are transitioning, or a certain percentage of them are, to wetlands. All right, so woodland we just did. All right. I confess I have done nothing about items, electricity in the barn and farmhouse usage, because I think the weather is not conducive to try and get information on this yet. All right, so have not yet followed up on that. No update. One thing about going back to the projects, the habitat, climate resiliency, you'll see that, I mean, Christine was very quick off the mark at the last meeting and quickly found the Worcester State University have programs. And I'm throwing out there for your consideration that whether on if WPI IQP, if that doesn't get off the ground, right, then we can take that and see if there is a relationship. I'm looking to see if we can build a relationship with Worcester State University that actually has these programs, right? So in other words, even if WPI do come through for this year, I'm thinking of finding that if we find the contact at some of these programs, I mean, to be able to, for example, add them to our invites for Meet the Wildlife. In other words, we start to introduce Rauscher Farm to potential interested faculty members and programs at Worcester State University. So that's what I'm throwing that out to pursue that avenue that Christine hit on instantaneously during our last meeting. So your thoughts, trying to build up. And again, we're looking to have young people coming in and maybe helping out in other ways. But basically, we don't have relationships with, the only one we have is WPI, and it's very specific in the sense that it's an IQP. So anyway, developing that relationship, your thoughts? Yes, you're nodding. Some of you are nodding.
Well, it makes sense to me, but I mean, the room, anybody else have an opinion? I think it's a good idea if somebody wants to go after it, but
Okay. Dave?
Good idea, but again, like to Jim's point, I mean, how do you do it?
Yeah. Well, we don't know. Again, it's a bit like we just finished one conversation that says insufficient data right now. We're coming up with a vision, right? Not an actuality at the moment. Christine, should we keep?
I think it's worth pursuing if we could find those contacts and even some of those consultation groups that we've hired in the past to do open space plans. I'm wondering if they have resources that they'd be able to point to who are subject matter experts that we could see if they'd be willing to do projects
Okay.
or oversee things.
That's a good idea. So in other words, we start shaking what is left of our brains and thinking about any other contacts that we have anywhere else, right? So in
Right.
other words, so we're going to have suggesting. So our goal is to start building these relationships beyond the educational stuff that we've tried in Clinton, right? And for all the reasons we know. But I believe there are ways out there. So, so let's explore, right? Go out and explore. So, should you hear anything? If you have any contacts in following Christine in any of these areas, right? Just just think if we have any names or contacts or possibilities. We've already tried reaching out to AMSA, and that also there was interest, but no follow through. So, and we understand the circumstances why. But if there are credits that can be beneficial, I'm thinking they're the sort of people who have access to the providing of credits, for want of a better word. Does that make sense? So that
Yes.
anyone engaged will be getting something tangible back. All right. Okay. I'm suggesting, because of that, Jim, we designate you to double check the plants, because you are the one you've been the one with the most up-to-date knowledge of what we've ordered and what we can't really find, and so what's the substitute. So can we designate you to see what, if anything, we need to purchase?
Well, we'd have to look for things other than the things that we want because we can't get the things we want, so I don't know what that would be. So I have to figure that out.
So yeah, what would be a good substitute then for what we can't get?
Again, I can't
We're
answer
back
off
to
the top of my
we're
head.
back to the endless willows, aren't we?
Well, yes, but then that means looking at Rob Jagier's list and seeing if there's other things that fill that same spot in the pollen and nectar cycle, which as far as I know, nothing really quite fits that spot in the early spring that the willows do. So again, and there's another one we wanted that we can't get, which is some kind of a raspberry, but it's not just any old raspberry that fits another one of those slots. If we can't get that, what else would fit that slot? TBD. The answer is I don't know, but
So can we give it to you?
yeah, I guess so. I guess I,
You
what
know, it
else?
was
I
looking
mean,
at Rob's list and then coming up and
yeah.
then
Mhm.
making a recommendation in April so that we can put in an order and work
Yeah,
out where
all
the
right,
financing
all
is
right,
coming,
whatever, yeah.
your to-do list. All right. Okay. Um, so the invasive species, I had mentioned um, that I had been contacted um, about this. So I did get another email, um, but this is Beth Sudmayer. So she seems to have experience of actually doing the beetles for the loosestrife. But she said, no, what I wanted to know was, were you buying or doing your own? Well, I'd already answered that in the first email. So she was probably in a rush and didn't really check that first email. So she did respond to me, but then she didn't seem to want, follow up on the fact I said, no, we bought, and here's where we bought from. So I'm sure she caught up with that at some point because I haven't heard any more. Um, okay. The all persons path to Clamshell Pond. Well, yes, we did take our recommendation to the Conservation Commission for their meeting last month, and they absolutely said yes, they absolutely agreed that the timing should not be to try and rush something through for this current town meeting on June 1st, but to basically start the whole process with the Permanent Building Committee all over again. Okay. The tricky part with any of this at the moment is the procurement officer is Mike Ward. And Mike is also obviously the town administrator, but his temporary contract seems to expire. So I think at the end of June. So it's a bit tricky as to know who will be doing what in town governance from July 1 on. And we'll just have to see. Because it is Mike who puts things on the Permanent Building Committee agenda. And if Mike is not there, then who is there? And does that person still have that same job scope? Right? We don't know. So yeah, so we're going to wait a year, but we're not quite sure. We want to start the process as soon as we can, so we don't end up in a rush at the end. So we'll see. So yeah, our recommendation was accepted. That's that. Okay. The volunteers, as I just alluded to. So the WPI IQP fair hasn't happened yet. I'm not quite sure when it does. David Spinago, after our last meeting, I sent him, what we had talked about and said, was this would this meet, the requirements of the IQP program? And he said, absolutely, it's a great project. Great. He was excited about the project, which of course, and also the Conservation Commission approved the project a couple of weeks later. So he said he would draw up some materials for the fair, but would run them by me to make sure he not said anything inaccurate about Rauscher Farm. So I've no idea of the timing of all of this, but now we're up to the 11th of March. So I'm assuming it's somewhere between now and the end of March the fair happens, and we will or won't see if there's WPI students interested. but we will also be looking at that Worcester State University as well, about to offer it if they're not. Yeah? Do I have, that's my understanding that we are happy to do that part. This is other than building a whole relationship with Worcester State yet, but if we don't get WPI interest, we will use that project to reach out to Worcester. Okay? Yes? That's okay. All right. Okay. Oh yeah, and David Spinagle, as we had talked about at our last meeting, that needing a wetlands scientist to be able to have input into the project, right? And David Cowell was not at the Conservation Commission meeting, and I know that was Dean's concern, and we just pile everything onto David. So the other David Spinagle said he understood, and he thought there were some faculty members at WPI that he could look into and reach out to. So we've not agreed, we've not submitted our David Cowell to the project in his absence. David Spinagle has been told there needs to be someone. So again, it's all up there, but so we've defined that part of it too. Okay. All right. Now, well, now we get to communication and outreach, and we get to the most exciting moment in Jim's life. So, including today, right? The one suddenly we found out. Okay, so the new website is there and it's functioning, and it also has on its first page, which is the about page, it does have the flyer for the Meet the Wildlife of Rauscher Farm, and it also has the link underneath that for people to be able to register directly on the library's registration page for that event. So the flyer is also on the library's page, right? And you will see, of course, that yes, we were successful. We did find a rehabber, right? So the Hive, the Facebook Hive research worked fine, and I got all sorts of suggestions. And several people mentioned this particular one, and she seems extremely nice. She is doing a 1 hour at now is it Berlin Library at 10, and then we'll come down to our program and to arrive at our program around 11:30. Well, our program starts at 11, so we get to show some of the photographs. And the reason I'm saying, because I think the moment she walks through the door with Bella, the barn owl, people will see our lips moving, but they won't hear a word we're saying because they'll be totally focused on Bella. Now, it also so happens, if you haven't yet seen Christine's beautiful flyer for this event, that we have 2 barn owls on the flyer, which photographs were taken by David Ammerman, and they were part of when we did the Rauscher Farm photographic exhibit in the library. That was one of the images that he submitted for that exhibit. So suddenly everything all sort of came together. It was one of those magic, last pieces of the jigsaw puzzle all went in the matter of 48 hours, right? After panicking that, how is any of this going to work? So that's what we have. And there it is on the website, on the new website. So now we come back to Jim and his thoughts about how we can all keep helping, making sure, the website is functioning as it should, and the copy, for all you eagle-eyed proofers in this meeting, okay, because the trouble is Jim's looked at this for so long that, he can't see
Can I
it.
just say,
Yeah.
because this has been, 2 steps forward, 1 step back throughout the entire process, including down to this morning. But, there is right now a new issue. I see Christine just sent me something that nobody else has seen. I've barely looked at myself, about some kind of like a little system icon that in theory could go in the browser, in your browser's line. Is that correct, Christine? That in theory would go up where it would say rauscherfarm.org, except, let me just clarify here. We have a problem that I fixed this morning, but the way I fixed it was by, what can I say? What you will see in the browser line will not say rauscherfarm.org. It'll say blah, 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 whatever magic, mumbo jumbo is up there. It says something, something, my Bluehost, blah, blah, blah. And the reason for that is I did have it configured before to, I can't think what the magic word is, to basically alias in rauscherfarm.org where that line is. But doing that basically is, what can I say? It screws up search engines and browsers, apparently, some more than others, which is why it worked in some and not in others. And then we're finding quite a few browsers, especially like on cell phones, we're not finding the site at all, even when you put in rauscherfarm.org. I changed it this morning in another way to completely eliminate that alias. So what it just puts in is exactly what you see is what you get, and everything seems to work now. So that's this morning's fix. Now, to add in something new, like what Christine just sent me, I haven't read the directions on how to do that. We may be able to do that. I can't go back to do it the way I've done it before, though, because we end up basically, what can I say? We end up basically trying to outsmart the browsers that are smarter than we are. So I have to read directions on that. There may be a way to have that up there, followed by whatever the mumbo jumble is that up there that doesn't say rauscherfarm.org. Maybe there's another way I can make it say rauscherfarm.org by rearranging how the site is organized. I don't know, above my pay grade. Yet another black hole to go down to see if I can figure it out. But right now, though, the site works, browsers find it, and everything seems to work on my cell phone, on different browsers on my desktop, all of that, which was a problem up until this morning. So, I'd like to find a way to not break that again. So TBD, another black hole to dive down here.
So here's my question. Back to you, Jim. Okay, so what happened this morning was on my phone, an Android, right? I put in a search for Rauscher Farm, right? Okay. And then so I write Rauscher Farm. This is a Google. And I don't know if anyone else has done, because this is what I don't get. So I write Ralph Farm. Okay, then I hit Luke, right? And then I get this. I don't know if you can
All we can see
see.
is a blur. We can't see anything but a blur holding up to the screen.
I know, but I don't know how to. Well, what
We
it
can't
is
possibly
it
read
says
that.
Rauscher Farm, and it says overview, photos, about, reviews, and underneath it's call, directions, website, share. There's the address. So this is somehow being created by, I believe, Google. But
I don't know what you're looking at. I can't always see is a blur. We can't see what's
I
on the
know it's the
screen you're
thing I
looking
showed
at.
you this morning that,
It's just a white blur. Are you looking at a Google? You're not looking at the website. You are
yes,
looking at
I'm looking
Google. Is
at
that
it
correct?
says here, Google at the
Yeah.
top.
Okay, fine. All right.
Underneath, it says I just typed in Rauscher
Gloria,
Farm.
excuse me, Gloria, I think
Yep.
you're looking at the Google search results, which has the links for the maps and the phone numbers, etc. I don't know that the site's been up long enough for Google to have web crawls to be able to update
Well,
that link.
and Christine, I completely uploaded the site all over again yesterday after
Right.
doing some changes. Up until yesterday, any changes I've made, I've done directly on the hosting site and then also duplicated on my own desktop. Yesterday was the first time I did all the changes on my desktop, uploaded the entire site all over again, because that is the way I want to manage it going forward.
Right.
And
And
as
my
far
only
as
point was to tell Gloria that it might
yeah,
not populate in that
right.
screen where it has the map and the directions, the information bubble that comes up that Google consolidates. that link doesn't work. But if you scroll down and you see rauscherfarm.org or Rauscher Farm, the site, that is clickable. I think that's going to take a while to populate, especially if there are changes made to the
Okay,
site.
because if I hit what you're saying, Christine, right? What if I hit website underneath the pictures, right? So
Right,
it's
it
not
does
there.
not,
It's not
correct,
there, right?
correct. It's
So
going to take a bit,
okay, so if I go down to in the same page further down, you're saying this should work, Rauscher Farm.
correct.
Oh, and you are right.
So you're looking at Google's consolidation of all things Rauscher Farm at the top versus the direct website link to Rauscher Farm that you just clicked on.
Okay,
And
and I
so
should
far, I have been checking this both on my desktop and on my cell phone using different browsers too. So I've been looking at it in Chrome and Firefox and whatever is the browser that comes with my Samsung phone, DuckDuckGo, and a few others. When I did first put the site up, I was having trouble getting them, but I think part of that was because the what can I say? The browsers basically store pages, so they don't have to search for them. So I went in and cleared my memory on the browsers, and then it started coming up again.
Yeah, the
But
cache needs to be flushed in order to
yeah,
refresh the page.
and
So the
and it will
fact,
flush itself. It'll flush itself eventually, but
yes.
it's
That favicon that I had sent you, so for instance, on
mhm,
Safari, it comes up where it has the Bluehost in the address bar, but
okay,
immediately below that, it will have a header title to whatever page it is on, wildlife, Rauscher Farm, any of those
okay,
things it'll have there, and that's where the favicon would appear. So I think if that update, I did send you instructions on
yeah,
that. If it works, there's two different
okay,
varieties to check there. It's a minor change compared to all the other
yeah,
things that you're working on. So I just wanted to get that
yeah,
over so you can work on
yeah.
it in your own time.
Okay, I'll look at that tomorrow, the next day. And I think I saw something similar to that somewhere in the back alleyways of WordPress. So I'll find that back alley again and look at it. But you sent me stuff. That probably points me right to it anyway.
Yeah,
So I
it's
can
a
try it.
WordPress and yeah, WordPress instructions and also an AI
Okay,
step by
all
step
right,
on how to do it.
okay.
okay.
Yeah, and the
Can I?
trouble is, I found that the domain name is hosted at GoDaddy, which goes way back to, I didn't buy the site. What's his name bought the site before, so I've kept it there, which is fine. That's just where it hosts the domain name. And all along for the last 10 years, I've just been repointing it from there to where the site was hosted, which was actually within our own personal space, Gloria's and mine, which is elsewhere. And now that I've moved the site, I've gone back to GoDaddy where I had to, repoint the domain name to where it's actually hosted now. And when I did that, it has three different options of how to do that. And I first did the one that actually looked like the most elegant because it let me put in what I want to see in that search bar and also search words for the search engine to look for, et cetera, which all made perfect sense in plain English, but plain English actually doesn't make perfect sense apparently in the world of, in spider crawlers and whatever. So I torpedoed that, went back to just the basic, simple go here, go nowhere else, and always go here, and that works. But you now see that line in the search engine. I mean, in your browser bar. So how to make it appear in that line? I will read the directions you sent me and see if I can make it do that.
I have a question for Christine and you, Jim. So doing what Christine just said, forgetting about the website, but just actually going to the URL on the Google
Yeah,
page, right, which brought me to the Rauscher Farm site, right?
yeah,
And at the top of the Rauscher Farm, not the
yeah.
actual site, but it says Rauscher Farm, and then it has this ABC spaghetti. Now, is this the thing you were talking about? It's got jxq.vlt.mybluehost.me.
That's what he's been referring to during this
Where are you seeing this?
conversation.
You know
She's
where?
referring to the Bluehost. She's referring to the Bluehost address line. that's what she's seeing. So everything that you were just discussing on what
Yeah,
appears
right,
instead of Rauscher Farm. So
right.
that's what she's talking about. Yeah.
So
That's
it's
what
that.
he's continuing to work on.
Oh, okay. So in other words,
That's,
that's my ignorance. I'm saying, is that actually what you two are talking about?
that is the
Yes.
issue that I changed this morning, right?
Yeah.
Because before I had it set so it would say rauscherfarm.org up there. But even then, that didn't appear on every device in every browser when I was checking it,
Right.
right? And now I
Right.
made that go away, so it shows you the actual, it's not even really a URL, it's like another shortcut pointer to the URL that Bluehost provides. And I don't know how to make that go away without risking going right back to what we had with, the browsers, the search engine not finding it again. So, and if I understand from what Christine has sent me, it looks like it's possible to put up that little logo on that line that will basically improve what you see. But again, it's TBD. I have to look
I
at it
see.
tomorrow.
And that again, because I know you just said this, but my brain is totally warped in terms of this. But that little logo is actually the logo for the alphabet soup that I've just read you, correct?
Well, it's a logo that, if I understand correctly, we go there in addition to that.
It
In
should
addition,
supplant it.
what?
It should replace it.
It
So
should
Should
replace it.
replace it.
That okay, fine. That's it. Okay.
what I'm looking at on mine, and
Yeah.
this is a Safari browser on a Mac,
Okay.
you
All
have a
right.
WordPress favicon now. It's a little W in a
Okay.
circle.
Okay.
What I sent you today would replace that with some sort of Rocher Farm
But
icon.
where is your WordPress site hosted? Is it hosted by WordPress directly? Your personal site?
No, I haven't discussed my personal site at all.
Okay. All right. Okay.
This is the Rocher Farm site. When I'm looking on Safari, on my web browser called
Okay.
Safari,
Yeah.
it has the title of each page, and to the left of that, it has a WordPress logo. It's the W in a blue circle. What I sent today would be the file and the instructions on how to replace that. This is separate from the Bluehost URL.
All right. All TBD. Well, I'll
Right,
look into it,
exactly.
tomorrow, the next couple of days.
Okay.
I think
All
what
right.
you're looking at, what you're talking about is getting that rochefarm.org to be in the browser website address bar is far more important than having the favicon updated at this point. So
Well,
that's
but the
I'll be
point is, I cannot get the Rauscher Farm. I cannot put the rauscherfarm.org back in that address bar without breaking things, right? That's the problem I had to fix this morning. So the question is, can that whatever you call that little icon go up there in addition to that or in place that above
it
my pay
depends,
grade
and again,
TBD?
it's going to be browser dependent on which browsers show that line.
Yeah.
Like I said,
See, and
Safari
now,
does, but right now I can't see that Chrome is.
okay, but see, here was the issue. The thing that I had done before using, I can't remember the magic words that they had, and I had it somewhere, but the when I had that set up within, um, okay, I had it set up within forwarding within, I'm getting lost in all these names here. When I was in, GoDaddy, where the site name, where the domain name is hosted, as opposed to where the site is hosted, right? When I set up the forwarding in that, to forward the site to where it really exists, I had the option of using permanent, temporary, or forward with masking. I had previously used forward with masking, and when I set up forward with masking, you then get a little form you can fill in where I can say, what do you want to see displayed in that line? Where I could put in rauscherfarm.org. I could also put in a bunch of keywords for the browsers to search, but nothing there actually points the browsers to that exact URL, right? And then when I went back and when things seemed to be not working entirely properly, I then went to Dr. Google this morning and looked at what happens when you use forwarding with masking as opposed to using permanent when you're forwarding the website. And lo and behold, what comes up is when you're using forward with masking, some browsers can handle it, some can't, some can handle it better than others. And basically, even when you're doing that using forward with masking, none of the browsers will automatically know where to go other than finding it through the search terms I put up there. So I can't use forward with masking. That ship has sailed. We can't go back there. So the only question is now using the permanent option, which I'm now using, is there a way to add something to it that would change what displays in that line, which is another puzzle to solve. So I'll start looking to that tomorrow.
Good luck.
Yeah, right. And again, forward with masking seems such a great idea, except, it seems like a great idea to everybody and everything except actual web browsers, which don't seem to like it. Some do. And then,
Yeah. Yeah, sorry. I just want to say one thing too, in general. The tricky part with the Rauscher Farm site is that it's basically an archival site too of everything, which means that Jim is dealing with a huge amount of information. I mean, it's the only one place where all of the art.
now, here was one more thing, because it is. And when I was getting ready to upload it, having spent, God knows, close to a year building this thing on my own desktop using the local host, the WordPress local host, when I was getting ready to upload it, I downloaded one of any number of, I looked at, again, a bunch of different ones, different plugins that let you make it easy to upload to my hosting site. And that's fairly simple once you figure out how to use it, because I install it on my local host on my computer. I install the same thing on the version up on Bluehost. And then once I want to upload, I can go to the Bluehost site, ask for a code. They give me this incredibly long code that I cut and paste into my own browser, and then click upload. They know how to talk to each other. It takes about 2 or 3 minutes, and my entire site uploads, which is perfect. It's absolutely wonderful. I like it. That works, But that being said, I forgot where I was going with that. When I was doing that, there was a point to this, but I've lost it now. But the point is, yesterday was the first time I uploaded the entire site all over again, as opposed to just doing repairs online. And it was after that that Gloria noticed she couldn't get to it. But I was having that problem intermittently before. But again, the same browser on it, using Firefox on my cell phone might get a different result than using Firefox on my desktop. So it's a jungle out there.
A very quick search in the pros and cons of permanent versus direct, permanent versus temporary is looking like permanent may give you what you need. I've done a screen grab, and like you said, you've got to get into the weeds of it, but it seems like permanent will solve the SEO conflicts. So just a little
Right
side.
now, I'm on permanent and it's working. The only thing that it doesn't do is give me Rauscher Farm in the subject line of the search engine.
Right. That's right. Because
there may be a subset of menu options under advanced. Again, this is very easy for me to say doing a quick Google search that may offer that opportunity by pointing it to that other domain.
And again, I'll dig into that. But the point I was trying to make before when I lost the trail was the overall size of the site, because you have all that archival, especially, the past events, it gets bigger and bigger. And also I learned the hard way is each image that I upload into the WordPress local host site actually becomes a cluster of up to half a dozen images, because when I put it in the library, the software itself creates like half a dozen different images in different sizes and formats, which is a good idea, because then it'll serve up one particular image if it's going to a cell phone browser, a different image if it's going to a desktop browser. But what that means is I have that much more data in my database, right? And when I was getting ready to upload it, I had something saying with Bluehost, where I'm hosting it, that you might have trouble with any site that's more than 500 megs uploading it. But it does say if you have that problem, go hat in hand to your provider and ask for more bandwidth. So I can try that if I need to. But in the meantime, before that, what I did is I went through the site, I thinned lots of things out, I reduced some numbers of pictures, I rearranged some of them, etc. And when I finished that, the entire site came out to, I don't know, somewhere over 400 megs, which is good. And 400 megs is not a lot. I mean, it uploads in a couple of minutes. But here's the other thing I found, that when I'm using that app to upload the site, And again, you're into black magic, then who knows what that app does internally, right? So I go and I get a code from the online end, I get a code on my desktop end. They both have the same code. I tell it to upload the site. I don't know what it does when it's doing that in terms of compression or whatever else when it's passing it up the line. So it could well be what looks like 400 megs on my desktop may look like less than that when it's sending it up because maybe it compresses it. Who knows? The only things to do is to reach a point where the site gets too big, which it will as we add more events and whatever else. And then do I suddenly have trouble uploading? In which case, the simplest solution is to just go to Bluehost and say, come on, guys, give me more bandwidth or something, which, so
So,
TBD down the road, something to watch out
so
for.
this is something I'll show you, Jim, after this meeting, but it's interesting that this whole issue about, so on an Apple iPad,
Mhm.
it comes up with no Rauscher farm in the search. It just has the ABC My Bluehost thing, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
But but on the phone, on the Android phone, it does say Rauscher farm and then underneath the spaghetti soup. So it's just cute. Anyway, so we're not going to keep everybody up doing
Yeah.
this. So it looks like Jim and
Yeah,
Christine,
but see, when I look on my Android phone, I don't see that. I just see, JXQ
the
Bluehost
spaghetti
me.
soup, right? The
Yeah,
spaghetti soup.
yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Do you
beyond that,
guys?
I want to give a shout out to Jim for doing all of that work and the layout and the page organization and the colors and the breakdowns and the elements that he's chosen and the photo formats that he's chosen because it's a very clean, very friendly site. Despite what the URL bar says. So I just want to say thank you for all that work because that is no small task.
Oh, I'd
And,
have to
and,
put
and
that in.
I will thank you as the one professional designer among us, total amateurs. And the trouble I had with that was that template that I'm using. I tried a bunch of the different templates, and some work better than others, and some were good up until a point, and then I had to ditch it and try another one. So a lot of this goes to just trial and error too, until I found one that looked like it would function. That also affects the menu structure and all kinds of other stuff. So I will take credit for having, crashed and burned any number of attempts until I found one that seemed to work.
So it's no
I'm,
small
I'm,
feat and duly
I'm just,
noted. So thank
yeah, I know. It's good that you thanked him because I just find all the things that don't seem to be functioning, right? So, and
Well,
I don't
the
know
other thing
what,
I found, I don't want to beat
Jay,
a dead, but when I first got the site up, when I looked at it on my cell phone, I got this tiny little ant dropping text to read. Now I'm seeing text you can actually read on a cell phone. So that was another bug that
yeah.
it's fixed. God knows how it fixed. It fixed itself, or I fixed it. Who knows? But now it seems to be working better. So
So, so actually, Dave and Dean, when you have an opportunity, look at it on whatever devices you've got and see what you see. Okay. I mean, if you've got tablets or if you've definitely all got phones, but I can't remember who is an iPhone and who is an Android here. Oh, all these mixed relationships we have, right? Okay. So just take a look and see because it also affects the layout. So the layout on the phone, because there is all this information, looks very different to, you know, I
well,
really
also if
like
you
it.
turn your phone sideways too, it changes. So
One
Yes,
thing that I noticed on the site, which I think looks great, frankly, I didn't have any problem with it at all, is on the travel directions. We might change driving past Nipro to J-Bill, which will
oh,
be the case for
which
another
will
5 minutes.
well, maybe
So,
which will have to be
not.
changed again soon. Yes.
Maybe not. They're moving out of Clinton.
right.
So don't. Okay. All right. Enough. We don't. That's another rabbit hole. Forget that
Yeah.
rabbit hole.
Drive
Okay.
past the large brick building with a tall chimney that doesn't, yes,
That has
whatever.
no name.
That
The
used to
nameless.
be.
The nameless Brickville. Oh, I'm sorry. It's just there's so many. Okay.
Like we give directions in Worcester County, drive past where Table Talk Pie used to be.
Here you go. And,
Okay.
and
And
turn right at building 19, right?
okay. So anyway, let's. Yes, he does. Thank you, Christine, for that. He does actually. I mean, we managed to stay married too. So I mean, that was the other part of I was planning to leave home through the whole, but it's functioning and being
And
tweaked.
I did get to exercise my full Navy vocabulary throughout the process.
You did, yes. I will vouch for that. Okay, so it's up, right? Hooray. Okay, now that's and yes, when we are about to under communication, we are about to now start, our usual promo blast for the April 25th. And as I say, Christine has already designed the woodland one, which we're just going to have to just tweak it a bit to make sure before I sign off. But we have something ready to go again, which we can send to Worcester State, should we hear back very soon. I won't go backwards on all of that. Okay, guys. All right. Okay. Have not yet found an artist to paint the electricity box, but that will come. Have
While
faith.
we're still on communication and outreach,
Yep.
we had talked about creating new signs for the barn. I'm getting pricing for the 2 large signs. Do we have any other signs that we are looking to replace on the barn? I'm just looking at metal outdoor signage right now, to get
Because we
those
need,
rollings.
right, because you also need to know how much they're coming out of that budget, that $5,000 budget. That's
Correct.
what, okay. So I agree. And I have to say, I really meant to look at this and have you look at it, but of course you haven't been able to get very close to stuff in the last few weeks. But you can now. So I will can you nag me, Christine? Feel free to
Yes.
nag me on this one. Okay. Um, because I want to check down the pollinator garden signs too, that whole run. I mean, well, obviously the layout one is not accurate anymore, but then we're possibly changing again. So, is it how to handle the evolving layout one? You know the one I mean, the beigey
Yes.
looking one, right? Um, and I'm not sure because if we go and do something different again in the next couple of months, we may want to look at actually making it more accurate with the understanding that it'll never be 100% accurate because who knows what plants survived and then get replaced. So
Do we want to consider a different approach and just do a plant list of what is planted in there
well,
rather
that
than
will solve the problem,
right?
Because the one that's up right now is considerably a couple of actual dig-in plant iterations away from, so yeah, let's think about that.
Something to think about. And then I don't know how many signs you want to replace. Like you said, we need to get eyes on them to get an inventory or how many replacements we already have in the barn
Right.
ready to go. But once we're getting mid-March and then we run into the time frame of the squeeze and getting the invoice in.
Right. No, I mean,
So,
we need to have resolved all of this by the next meeting.
yes,
Right.
yes, that would
But
Deadline.
be
all of
ideal.
those like about the farm signs are reversible too. So we know we have the other side of those to use. So it's really,
Right. But I see that, because I've been up, thank you, Dave. I was up there checking that they've gone. Right. Dave had notified me that there was some personal property of, skis, what's it called? Cross country
Two sets of snowshoes.
snowshoes,
okay.
right? And David let me know they were propped up against the silo. And I did go up a few days. They went, so it's obvious someone doing something, and then went and did something else, and then came back and got what they needed. So
Yeah, it was weird because it was a couple days. That was the only reason I had a concern.
yeah, yeah.
But
I don't know.
it's so good.
Yeah, no, but either that or somebody else helped themselves. But there's no way we can't help that. But yeah, not there now. So okay, so yes, but I did notice that the snow piling the snow up has bent some of those immediate things around the So I need to go and come up. Now that you can actually get through a few things. Okay, so yes, Christine, you have to nag me. We have to be able to try and do that in the next week or so, the list, so that we get the costing and that we know where we're getting the money from, which purse we're going to take the money from. But the big metal signs they are a priority.
And there are some signs in the barn. We have some spares of,
No, yeah, we do have some spares. You're quite right. I'm talking about the great big the big signs on the side
Those,
of the bar.
the two large signs are the ones I'm getting pricing on now, but if there are others, I'd like to put them in with the same order to see if there's some sort of bundled cost.
Yeah, okay. So please permission to nag. Okay. The other, because I haven't even been able to put up, the current events, because I haven't been able to reach through the snow. So I do have to get going on getting I'm sending that one. I'm talking to myself. It's okay. That's my job to do. All right. Okay. One thing I don't know about any violations. I don't think we could call the personal property a violation. It's just a personal property left behind and then reclaimed by somebody. So we will go with that. I did want to run, and I haven't had any permissions requests, nobody else. So the other thing I did want to run by you was I was contacted by Freedom's Way, this May program. And I have felt for the last several years, this is all to do with the climate change and what happened in May. I mean, last year it rained solidly every weekend in May, if you may or may not recall. And we tried to do it was the photography was meant to be an on-site photography workshop on Rauscher Farm. Couldn't do that because the weather. Went to the rain date. The rain date was bad. We ended up on Zoom. So, but that's been happening for the last several years through May. May has tended to be very unpredictable. And right now we've just scheduled in our woodland project on the 9th of May. So I did reply to the contact at Freedoms and Way and said no, because she was reminding me the deadline is approaching. And I had said no, we were not going to do anything this year. But it's something that, again, it's that whole issue of an outdoor event when the weather is so unpredictable in this day and age. So to be thought through maybe for next May. This is why we're doing things in the library, and thank goodness, the January and now, basically because the April dates were also totally wet around Earth Day. So but we can't expect the library like having a free program, but Rauscher Farm can't be too greedy, But it depends if the library budget is cut, they might like in the budget season that we're going through and all that's going to happen in the next few months, they might want lots of Rauscher Farm programs because they're free for the library. The library doesn't have to pay the presenters. Okay, anyway, so just to let you know, so we're not doing Freedom's Way in May this year, all right? That is it, isn't it? Is that it? That's it, isn't it? But now, any more things before, any other thoughts before we go for a motion to adjourn just after 7:00? No? No, everyone?
No.
Okay, well, in that case, I will ask for a motion and second to adjourn at 7:13 p.m.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay. Would anyone like to?
a
Second,
second.
Yep. Was that
It was me,
That-
Jim.
Dave? You would simultaneously.
Oh, okay, then Dave,
Jim,
then.
Jim can have it.
I really don't care. It's not, Is there a bonus in my paycheck if I?
Well,
We'll double your pay, Jim.
okay. Well, let's give it to Dave because you were literally the same time. I heard you both. Okay. And you've just had your moment of glory about all the things that, you almost tore your last of your remaining hair out to get the website up, right? Okay.
Well, I wear hats a lot.
Right. All right. So now roll call vote to accept that motion.
Dean, I.
Christine,
Dave, I.
Gloria, aye.
Jim, I.
Okay. So that means that right now I will turn off the magic recording, which always takes me a minute. Oh, there it is. Stop.